Producers and/or the persons appearing on the programme and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is a snowy, rainy, sleety Friday in the Riv.
It's something. And just so you know, Miss Maria Aguiar sent us some comments, and she said, "Hello, gentlemen. Could you please be sure you identify yourself when the show begins so I know who's who?" So we usually do it, but I guess on Wednesday's show we failed to do that. But we had other important things that were going on. So don't think that we don't read your comments, because we read them all.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think did. I say I'm Chip. Didn't I say that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think either of us.
Well, just in case, I'm Chip.
Well, this morning we did it, and I'm CJ.
And most of our viewers, our diehard viewers, know us, and maybe we don't want to reveal our identities. Sometimes Wednesday's show, I guess, got a lot of buzz on the local radio station.
Yes, it did.
People were really not happy with the actions of 6 city councilors in attempting not to allow the people to speak, even though they said this was a method to let the people speak. But it's speaking in a position where it would accomplish absolutely nothing. So because they've already accepted the debt, supposedly.
And I had a conversation with one of the city councilors who was a naysayer. We had one before the vote, if you remember correctly, with Mr. Raposo. But I had one after with Michelle Dion. And she said she couldn't get it across to any of the 6 members of the council that not only did they put the matter, approve the school, but they approved the debt. They couldn't understand that. I mean, they said it very clearly that by approving this, you approve the debt. Yet those 6 city councilors couldn't get that through their thick skulls, because they're going to do what they want, not what we want. All they had to do was say no, and it would have gone before the voters in a region-wide ballot. And that ballot would have been paid for by Diman. It would have been paid for by Diman. But instead, they want to go forward and say, yes, we're going to pay for it. What happens if the voters turn around and say, no, we don't want to pay for this, because it's got to come before the voters, because it's over $5 million. Where are they going to get the money?
Well, look, this is all a diversionary tactic, because what they wanted to do is be political rather than representatives of the people. Kadeem made it very clear. What do you think? We're going to go ask the people for everything we do? Well, theoretically, you should. Theoretically, you should, because the Constitution of this Commonwealth clearly states that they are, number one, we are the government in part of the first Article 4, and in part 5 it says that all elected officials and magistrates, whether legislative, executive, or judicial, are at all times agents of the people and are their substitutes and are answerable to them at all time. And a city council that is looking at a $293 million debt, of which Fall River is going to absorb 77%, should have said, we're going to defer to the voters. As I said, you elect them. You see, these people have this convoluted perception that once they're elected, that they're in charge. But they're not. Because remember what is clearly stated. This is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They are there to represent the people. And most of the time, with most of the expenditures, people say, okay, unless it's a gigantic expenditure, they go, okay, make a decision based on your feedback and your evaluation, your personal evaluation. So you entrust that much to them. The reality is that, just like something in Boston, if a state rep gets 27,000 calls on an issue, he should listen to the people he represents. Conversely, our city council should have it, rather than being arrogant and say, we don't have to talk to them. What are we going to go ask them about everything? No, not everything. But when are you going to spend $293 million after we're looking at a debt override for Durfee coming down the pipe, and tax increases and inflation and greater increases in gas prices and everything else, in a city where the average per capita income is $25,000 a year? Yes, you should have immediately said, we are not against Diman. However, we are all going to vote no, so then we can go and register our personal feelings on Diman at the polls with every other voter in Fall River. Give them the opportunity to vote. And then if 8% or 14% come out, well, then you can say, well, we gave them their opportunity. But to just summarily dismiss the people you represent, to me, means that those 6 people should be removed from office in the next election. There was even talk about removing them earlier.
Exactly. I mean, a recall shouldn't be used, and we said this before, just to fix every little error. They should be used for major issues. Do you think this is a major issue? I think that not representing the people is a major issue. I think that's a major issue.
No, you're right. This is an egregious violation of the public trust. Not only because of the size of this debt that they're going to impose on a city that is already up to its eyeballs in debt, with a population that can't absorb that debt. But also, it's an egregious violation of the public trust that they were elected to protect. They are our representatives. They are not, when they're elected, they do not become dukes and duchesses who now make all the decisions. They are not nobility. They are representatives. A city councilor does not make the decision on personal opinion. I do not care how Paul Coogan feels about this school. I do not care how any of those 9, even the 3 that voted no for the right reason. And nobody should care what a personal position is when they're in a position of representing the public. When I went to a union meeting as the president, if I had a position, I would give my position and say where I thought we should be going. If the union outvoted me, guess what? I had to do what the people told me, because the president of a union represents its membership. And when the membership speaks, they're bound to do what the membership wants. I couldn't say, well, you know something, you elected me president, screw you, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Well, then I wouldn't have been president anymore. And the thing is, these people are there to represent us, and to make that grossly arrogant statement, dismissive, condescending, every other adjective you can think of, for diminishing the worth of the people you represent by Sean Kadim, is totally egregious. And that's the problem. The problem is, listen, there are going to be people losing their houses. You came up with $69 and rounded off to $70, and with the cost of houses, you're gonna take a hit. We don't even know the ultimate hit on the debt override for Durfee.
Right.
So now you put those two together. We've got people here. And I know these people personally. They're in the retirees organization that I represent. Do you know what the median average of the pensioners in Fall River are? We have some high people, the recent ones. We have a lot of elderly people whose pensions just continue to erode and erode. The average, and this is an accurate figure because I just looked at the numbers. The average pension in Fall River is $22,000. That's peanuts. $22,000. That's the average pension. How is somebody whose house has been paid for 25 years now, how obscene is that to look at the fact that you are looking at someone who worked for this city for 30 or 40 years, was fortunate enough to live, or maybe unfortunate enough the way the pension system works because they outlived their pension, now is going to lose a house that they lived in their whole life because they can't afford to pay their tax bills and still live. That to me is unacceptable. And to totally dismiss that is not only insensitive, it's outright criminal.
Hey, no argument for me. None. I'll tell you now. And, if we're looking here at, I think it was $6.9 million a year to pay for this school over 30 years. Okay. And that's $293 million. Durfee was only $234 million?
Yep.
It's not far apart. So it must be about $6.9 million, or we'll say 6.5 for the sake of argument. So let's say it's $65 per 100,000. That's a lot of money to add to the bill. Okay,
absolutely.
You've got, because if you got a house that's $300,000, that's $195. I don't know if that's a year or a quarter, and with the $280 a year, that kind of adds up pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
That's an extra $400 or $500 on your tax bill. Can you afford that?
Plus the regular tax increase.
Plus the
assessments are out of control. I mean,
right.
if you got a garage today, it's assessed at about $250,000.
It's ridiculous.
So, this is the whole thing. It's like there are people on that council that are totally disconnected. They make a lot of money and they don't care. It's the class war that we read about in Labor's Untold Story, where we are the rich and we frankly don't care about anything except maintaining control. And that was an exercise in the lack of democracy in that council chamber. And as I said, to reassert the fact that congratulations on those 3 councilors that voted no, because they know, obviously the newest counselor, Andrew Raposo, is not anti-education. He's a school principal.
That's right.
He's not anti-education, and he has his, and I'm sure he's probably, he may be in favor of it. And I know Michelle is not anti-education, and I would assume that there's nobody anti-education that's got half a brain, that Pam is too. But again, we have to remove this attitude that you get to apply your personal opinion when you're representing 95,000 other people. That's not the way this government works. If you get elected and the people are going to be exposed to a debt as their fiduciaries in the city council, to me, you are obligated to make sure that this goes to the ballot. That's why they passed an ordinance for $5 million. We're talking about over $200 million. I mean, that's absurd. It's absolutely absurd that these people think that I'm in favor of it. Well, I don't care. I was in favor of capital punishment, And I voted for capital punishment. And capital punishment prevailed many years ago in this state. And the governor vetoed it. And then they worked in politics, gave some people a lot of good benefits for their communities to flip their votes, and it was over, and it was changed. I told that governor when he ran for president of the United States, I couldn't support him because he did not execute his duties as the governor. The people of Massachusetts voted in favor of capital punishment, and he applied his personal feelings. Now, I have to live in a state that doesn't have capital punishment, and I'm in favor of it. But you know something? They went to the vote. They flipped it. Even though it won once, they just won't take no for an answer, and they politic their way to get their way. But at least I was part of the process. I got to go in there and vote. And the thing is, for these people to vote to exclude the people. And I heard that crap they came up with. Well, it's still going to go to the ballot, even though we voted yes. Well, what happens now? There's all kinds of legal questions. Did you truly accept the debt? Do you truly have the power to accept the debt that overrides a city ordinance? You know, I don't believe they do. I believe that the way that ordinance says over 5 million, any action they take that exceeds 5 million, it is a de facto admission that has to go to the ballot.
But they don't do it. They don't do it. They cut it up into little pieces. Just look, when was the last time anything for the CSO came before the voters?
Oh, no, you're right. And I think that's illegal. But the fact is that this is going to be over 5 million.
Right.
So that has to go to the ballot. But that's not the way it's supposed to go, because they thought it was more political for them to say, oh, I'm in favor. It is because I like the football fields. I like the children. Well, you know, I like children too. And I love vocational education. You know, I've seen how good it works in Germany. I've always been an advocate for years. But you know something? I want to go in and vote my conscience.
Right.
And let everybody else in this city have the opportunity. Then if they don't show up, they've got no complaints. When they get their tax bills and they start screaming and yelling and charging City Hall with pitchforks and torches, you ask them, did you vote? Well, no. Well, then get out, because you don't have any right to complain.
That's it.
We gave you the opportunity. But when you don't give them the opportunity, now this is a violation of the public trust.
No argument from me there, none whatsoever. And I'll tell you now, I think we're going to see a lot of unruly behavior come in the coming months over this debt. And I think once people find out how much it's going to cost them, especially after July 1st, when they get their tax bills and they see what the debt exclusion is going to cost them, I think for sure you're going to see people who are going to be very upset. And I think you're going to see a lot of seniors who say they can no longer afford to keep their house.
Yeah, and that's what's going to hurt. That's what really, really hurts me. I see people who have owned houses for years, and they're barely hanging on. I mean, think about it. An average 22, and we have people making a lot less than that. We have people in our organization that are in their 90s. We have a guy that comes to our meetings regularly that's like 95 years old. He fought in World War II. Now, obviously, he's been retired 30, 35 years. So, when you get retired, you get a decent pension. But if you live 35 years and the most you can ever get for a COLA is $360 for the entire year, less than $1 a day, you ultimately your pension, is worthless. You don't have enough money to survive anymore. And these people have their houses paid for, and now they can barely pay their bills. And that's a tragedy, because these people have worked all their lives. I did a quick thing on my calculator the other day that they've given pay raises to people that are 4 times more than a retiree has gotten in the last 25 years. If you took a retiree, if they got their 360 for 25 years, it's a quarter of what some of these pay raises that the city gives out to active employees. And you wonder why. There seems to be, these counselors seem to be a total disregard of not only the people who work their whole life. They're not welfare rats who are sitting in the house collecting a check from the government for their entire lives. These people put in 30, 40 years, and I know somebody who put in 50 years in the school department that's in our organization. They worked their entire lives, and now they're living virtually in poverty. The system has failed these people, and the council has failed these people by not taking them into consideration.
Well, I have two things. Number one, that $360 a year isn't guaranteed, correct?
No, it is not guaranteed.
Okay, so right there, because I know that the city and other people are saying, no, we can't pay it. But if you don't give it to people, guess what? They're the ones that suffer. It's not the city that's suffering. It's not the state that's suffering. It's not the county that's suffering. It's the retirees who are suffering. Okay? And the old adage of take a job with the city government or state government or county government because the benefits are amazing. Well, maybe the healthcare benefits are great, but the retiree pension is not great for everyone. It's great for some people. It's great for some people. Don't get me wrong. There are some people who are getting a nice big fat paycheck in their retirement. And that's wonderful. I'm glad they earned it, whatever the case may be, whether it be political or otherwise, they got that money. But that doesn't mean everybody gets it.
Most don't, because the majority of people in the retirement system are not the people who were department heads and administrators and CFOs and the people that are making six figures. Those are the people that are working, the clerks working in City Hall making $35,000 a year. Then they retire. And the thing is, and that's the misnomer, because see, that's the con. People don't understand. We break it down every year. It's not really 3%. It's a maximum of 3% on a $12,000 maximum. So if you're making more than $12,000 in your pension, you get less than, I think the average is even below 1% now, even with the high enders. Because if you're like now, if you retire and you got $100,000 pension, there are a few, and you got no complaints. But the fact is that if you look at them, they're getting like 0.25%. That's what they're getting, because they're not, $360 is not 3% of $100,000. The only time you're actually getting 3% is if you make $12,000 or less. And everybody else gets less than that. It's broken down, and most people make less than 2%. And it's nothing. It's $1. It's less than $1 a day. There's 365 days in a year. And right now, and for years, and there were years where they didn't get a COLA in those 25 years. I've been fortunate enough since I've been on the board to fight every year. And there were a few years where the vote was 3-2 to give us a COLA, where the city representatives voted no. But we've had a COLA for the past 6 years that I've been on the board. But, let's face it, that's insignificant. Do you realize that COLA won't even cover the tax increase for Diman on an annual basis if your house is evaluated at like $400,000 or $350,000? It's nuts.
I hear you, and it's true. So how are they going to afford doing all of that? How are they going to afford it? And then don't forget, you've also got to include water and sewer.
Yeah.
Those fees are going up. Okay. And there are also other fees that you got to pay that are going up. And we can't afford to keep paying all of these increasing fees.
Yeah. And how about the average Florida person that's making a $25,000? They're not retired. They're young people, and they probably have families, and they're trying to support a family, and with a few kids, and you impose this kind of burden. It's class war. It's total insensitivity to the people that really comprise the majority of Fall River.
Right. So it makes for an interesting time. Let's change the subject a little bit.
All right.
My trash barrels were stolen.
No.
I sent an email to John Perry this morning to let him know. He called me back probably within 15 minutes of getting that email, and he's delivering. I can hear them outside now. They're delivering my new barrels already. They didn't waste any time. But he said he's going to go out there and look for my barrels personally. He's going to compare the numbers. And once he finds that number, he's going to return that barrel. So we're going to find out. So remember, people, don't go stealing your neighbor's barrels because they got the numbers.
That's right. That's right.
Hey.
Well, yeah. It could have been a clandestine operation by anti-Spindle City movements.
There you go.
Could have been a clandestine operation.
There you go. Hey, this morning on Facebook, there were some people who praised DCM for the work they were doing before the storm. They said that one woman turned around and said that she appreciated what the DCM worker did because he was pre-treating the roads, and he told her to watch her dog's paws because I guess that stuff is very caustic. Yeah. And she was very happy that he did that. But they were out. I mean, some of the roads don't look as great as they could. But again, how do you make them look good when it's got ice and sleet and snow and everything on top of everything else? Makes it difficult. So
it has been a crap show. But like with me, my car's in the driveway, and I use the Pet Safe rock salt. So my dog doesn't walk on the streets if the streets are salted. I try to keep her off the regular rock salt because it is, it can affect the dog's paws. So yeah, that's a good point. But we got a few minutes left, and I don't think we can get out without talking about. Let everybody remember there is a war going on in Europe. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and I know we have a Ukrainian population in this city. There is there's a Ukrainian church actually down the south end, and I worked with a few people who were Ukrainian on a job, and keep me in your thoughts, and because again, this is the weakness. The Romans said centuries ago, if you want peace, prepare for war, and unfortunately our administration has shown nothing but weakness, and I think they precipitated, and I thought it was horrific for the Vice President of the United States to stand in front of the European nations and say, hey, guys, what we're talking about is the potential of a war here. How incredibly imbecilic do you have to be to stand in Europe, a place that has had to survive numerous wars and 2 world wars, and try to pretend that they don't understand the gravity of the situation? That woman needs psychological attention.
Well, I'll tell you now.
Let's keep your thoughts and prayers for the people involved in this, because unfortunately on both sides, rich old guys start wars, poor young men and women fight them.
Yeah. Well, I saw a very interesting meme this morning of a chess match. Mm-hmm. And you had Biden on one side and Putin on the other. The problem was Putin was playing chess. Biden was playing checkers.
Very appropriate.
Then I saw another one where they showed with one war where it was the Democrats and the Republicans all on one side, and this was during the Cold War, and Russia on the other. Now they're showing the Democrats against the Russians and the Republicans. So it's it's not the greatest thing in the world for the people. So
yeah, we shouldn't be politicizing wars. So.
Exactly. Well, we're out of time. Thank you all very much for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And remember, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching.